TikTok, it's time to rock. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Sunday show. It is a pleasure to be here. We have Brad, all the way from Melbourne, Australia. Good to see you, brother. And we have down there on the bottom there, we have the Rock Professor from the UK. How are you, the Rock Professor?
Morning, kids. How are we doing? I'm fine, thank you. Yes, not
Fantastic.
bad at all.
I know it's early for you in the morning, and we always appreciate the fact that you're on the show early, don't we, Brad? Because, you know, after all, it's a little bit later in the day for you and I, brother.
Yeah, it's a little bit later in the day, but I've just woken up, Andrew, so I'm...
Not that again.
Yeah, no, we're not going there again. We're not going there because every time we go there, we get into trouble. Good to see you, though, bro. You're looking good. You've got a surprise for us later, I understand.
Oh, yes. We'll keep it in there. Someone's going to say hello.
Yeah. Look forward to that. That's going to be interesting, folks. Thank you, everybody, for watching who's here live. We have 11 people here, so the Rock Professor will do a shout-out soon. If you're watching on replay, please, can you make sure that you subscribe to our channel? We'd love to have your support, and if you subscribe back to us, we subscribe back to your channel. I've done that over the last couple of days, Brad and Simon. We had about half a dozen people subscribe, so we've given them some subs back. And one other thing I'd like to ask you to do too, please, and go and see our friends on our communities page. There's a banner there. You'll see it, communities page, channels page. Go and subscribe to all our friends on our channels page, Brad, and then we'll be happy, won't we?
Oh, yeah. We'll be happy little campers. That's for sure.
Don't look at it on... Yeah, you have to look at it on not your iPads, don't you? Because the community channel doesn't appear on your iPad.
No, it doesn't. It only works on your iPhone, which is interesting, and obviously your computer. But go and check that out. Make a point if you're looking or watching from your iPad. Make sure that you go in after the show, jump on your machine and go and subscribe to everybody. Like I said, folks, Brad's got a surprise for us, so we can't wait for that. We're going to be ranking a great album. It's our first greatest hits album and probably our last. We do break rules.
Famous last words.
we do break rules on the channel, but the Rock Professor's got something that before he does a shout out, he's got something that he wants to show you guys.
Yeah, man. That's what came in the post Friday. Look at that. Wow. I know we've all been waiting for that. You guys are still waiting for mine. Turned up rather unexpectedly on Friday. I did a quick unboxing on the channel, so it's really cool. Just quickly show you the inside. I'm not talk about too much, but you get a really nice kind of hardback book of photographs and stuff, which is really cool. See if I can show you one. There we are. So you get that sort of idea of there we are. Of what you get. It's beautiful. There's some notes and things. You get a poster of Mr. Clapton.
Beautiful.
And you get, I won't take them all out, but you get double CD of, which one's this? the blues one, so it's double CD of all three, blues, rock, and orchestral, and a accompanying DVD as well. So pretty cool stuff.
Wonderful.
See inside. Nice.
No,
So yeah, I sound fantastic as well. I was playing on my stereo yesterday, and sounds brilliant. How different it sounds to the originals, I have no idea, but it sounds great and seems to be really well done. So recommended from me as a thing. There's the back of it as well. It just tells you everything it's got. Yeah, brilliant.
Awesome.
Where,
Thank you for that, Simon. And if you guys are aware, obviously, we've been talking about how we're going to go through and do this. So Brad, the rock professor, and I decided we're going to go through and we'll do the rock releases, the blues releases, and the orchestration. So we're going to go through. Brad pointed it out last week. He made a good point after the show, folks. He said, look, we can't just do the stuff that they've re-released and not talk about the stuff that they've remixed and remastered, because we were having a conversation about how great some of these remixes and remasterings are, Brad. So you said it. So we got to go back and do it all.
I think it would be an injustice to the channel if we didn't, Andrew. I think we must go back and rank them all again, because like you've pointed out to me wonderfully so, with No Alibis, I had to listen to that, and it sounds phenomenal. And there's so much more in the mix there that's standing out and popping out. So what I'm getting at is your idea of the performance is going to be altered because of the new mixes, I'd say. Plus, in continuity with the rest of this stuff that's unreleased, it would be great to rank it in that sense.
Yeah, and we will, and that'll keep us busy for a while, folks. And that's what we do on this channel. That was another thing too that Simon said too when we were talking about it, last week. That's what we do. If it's going to take half a dozen shows to get through it.
Yeah. I think it's having the angle, isn't it? But it sounds really great and stuff, which is what you'd expect, and you won't be disappointed.
We're look, Simon, Andrew and I are a little bit jealous, I've got to say. We're still waiting. We don't know how long ours is going to be, but I'm glad at least one of the three of us have got it already, which is great.
I know. I was surprised it was going to be me, but now you can still listen to it on Spotify and stuff, can't you? I know it's not quite the same as a
holding
CD.
out. I'm holding out. I want the whole experience, Simon.
Yeah. Well, you won't be disappointed. It sounds great, and it's they've had a lot of material to choose from, so you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, same here, Jim. I've got the vinyl box coming too, so I can't wait to, like Brad and Simon said, to listen to the new mixings. I've cheated. I've listened to all the stuff on Spotify. It's phenomenal, Brad. It's completely Yeah. So I look forward to that. So anyway, we could do another 2 hours talking about this, but we can't, can we?
Wait, stop this now.
Yeah, but we do look forward to getting them. My sets in the country. I suspect, Brad, you'll get a notification probably tomorrow saying it's in your country. You don't have any record with Australian Customs, so you should get yours within a couple of days. I'm on a New Zealand Customs hit list, so
quite right.
Yes, I like to go through your stuff. They just want to make sure that they're, like with a fine-tooth comb, make sure that it's all in working order and it's appropriate for you.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
I'll tell you a funny story about something to do with this after the show. I can't say
okay.
I'll tell you something afterwards.
John, there's a lot of songs on that release, John. So,
I think it's 6 hours.
There's There's 6 CDs of music and 3 DVDs, John.
Yeah.
So look at it as 2 CDs of blues, 2 CDs of rock, and 2 CDs of the orchestral. So they've done 3 sets, and each one of them has, I don't know, getting on for maybe 15 songs, something like that.
Yeah. And we may have guests coming on with us too, you know, on a particular episode. I know that our very good friend Michael wants to jump on and do a show with us. I know that.
Good.
And then probably, you know, Jim, you know, we may get Jim on a show as well too, being a Clapton fan. So so yeah, that'll keep us busy for a while. Rock Professor, do you want to do a shout out?
Let's do a shout out to the team in the chat at One Sticky Finger. Good morning. Derek Clatter. Morning, Derek. Is catching up on the replay as usual. But thanks for dropping by and thanks for the comment, Derek. Fantastic. Always good to see you. Jazz Thunder 50. Jim. Good morning, Jim. Gretch Eplin. Morning, Gretch. Holly Lewis. Good morning, Holly. Got the mug. Thank you so much. Coffee and mug. That's brilliant. Ellen as well. Good morning, Ellen. Yes, see you're in Melbourne. That's very lovely. Hope the weather's good for you. Brad's got the weather going for you. Hugh Caldwell. Morning, Hugh. North of the Border team out in force today. John, ZD351. Morning, John. Apologies for my crappy unboxing, John. It's time pressures. To get on with it quick with other stuff going on. But I'll do better next time. John is my sort of moral compass on how I'm doing. Stop slurping your coffee. Stop making long may it continue. It's fine. So Jonas Halberg as well. Good morning, Jonas. Hope you're good. Nice to see you too as well. I think Tim Thomas. Good morning, Tim. How are you? Nice to see you as well. Hopefully I got everybody. Yeah, I don't think I missed anybody else. So good morning to everyone. Great to see you. Thanks for joining us for another show.
Awesome. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. It's always a pleasure, an honor, and a privilege just to have such a great community of people digging this music that we love and motivates us and guides us, and we still just want to keep talking about Brad and Simon.
We just can't get enough, guys. We just can't get enough. I think there's something wrong with us here.
Well, yeah. Well, you know what they say about music, and you know, and we all know it because that's one of the reasons why we're all here. You know, music is a big part of our lives. You know, we were talking about a couple of things in the green room, folks. I don't want to detract from where we're going, but I'll just say it because I think it's pertinent to what music is. So I've got a good friend of mine that's been in France for about 12 years coaching rugby, caught up in the French riots, and some of the things that he's been telling me over the last couple of days about what's been happening there. It's quite scary. But he loves music. Didn't know that we did this channel. So I said to him, look, you know, if you're not going to be coaching rugby, watch what we do. But Brad, you know, he loves Clapton, loves Deep Purple, you know, loves the music, loves everything that, you know, that we hold dear. And so we managed to talk about, you know, music and the good things that does. So and as Simon said, you know, in the green room before we started the show, you know, that's what we do. That's always a fallback, isn't it?
100%.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, folks. So the first person that's going to be talking about the rankings will be me, followed by Brad, and then the Rock Professor. And like I said, folks, it's in honor of Paul McCartney turning 81.
Yes.
Yeah. And on that subject, we should also say happy birthday to Mick Fleetwood, who was 76 on June the 24th.
Well, they're all getting old, aren't they? Happy birthday, Mick.
Yeah.
Happy.
Forget.
Never forget what you did on this gig for Peter Green, Mick Fleetwood. Outstanding.
Absolutely.
They're all getting old. 81 years old. My gosh, Brad and Simon. You know, I remember listening to Coming Up on McCartney 2, I think, in 1980, and you know that was number 3, number 4 on the charts here in New Zealand. And you know, back then, Brad and Simon, I was a Beatles nut. You know, I was totally just everything was about the Beatles, and so obviously I had to, by default, listen to anything that Paul McCartney was releasing. Never really got into Wings, though, until, you know, maybe 6-7 years later. But I knew the Wings radio songs, guys, and a lot of those radio songs that we're familiar with are going to be on this album. But I kind of think, in a way, you know, this album came out in 78, Simon. I don't know if you remember this album being released. But from what I've read about this in preparation for the show, one of the great things about Paul McCartney is that they knew that they had the last song on this album. And one of the great things that you do with a song when it's going to become as dominant as it turned out to be, you put it on a greatest hits package, which bands have been doing for a while. And you just get your foot into that market a little bit more, Simon and Brad. And this album certainly did it for them, didn't it?
Oh, yes. 100%. 100%.
It's interesting. I mean, one of my best friends when I was a teenager, Derek Seger, he loved Red Rose Speedway. So, you know, I remember that album quite a lot. But McCartney's solo stuff, not quite in the same, never had quite the same level as the Beatles stuff, clearly. So, and of course, this is released in 1978, so it's at the height of kind of the punk thing. So I think it got kind of a bit bypassed, you know, bit old school in 1978.
Oh, look, and I get that, and I think for me around 1980, 81, Brad, when I discovered this album, and then maybe 4 or 5 years later, I'm just thinking out aloud in my mind, I discovered the live Wings Across America, that triple, and that album, wow. What a great, and they re-released it just recently, but I don't know if you guys are familiar with that album, but when I heard that album, and then obviously Jimmy McCulloch and seeing the pictures of this young guy, and I just fell in love with Wings, and because of that album.
Yeah. One of the albums that I used to listen to by the Wings the most was an album called Back to the Egg. I used to really enjoy that album. And so for me, Wings, I mean, look, I'll be honest with you, the Wings, I think like you, Andrew, just said, it took me a while to actually get into the Wings. I enjoyed it. I never had a problem with Wings music, and I thought it was great, but I appreciate it more in the last maybe decade than I ever have before. The Wings, you know, this album in particular. But for me, you know, I always had, you know, if I was going to put Paul McCartney on, it was always going to be the Beatles. I was always going to put a Beatles record on, not Wings. That's probably what I was getting at.
Yeah. And look, and I don't blame you, because for me, that's my default position too, and I suspect it's probably for you too, Simon. But I'm a little bit like you too, Brad. I've matured a little bit and come to appreciate what McCartney was trying to do with Wings and with his solo stuff, you know, and I listened to it in a way that's a lot different, Simon, to what I would have done, say, 20 years ago. So I appreciate what he's doing. Yeah, sure. But I think the good thing for us, though, is most of us, everybody would be familiar with all the songs on this album, because if we did maybe say Wings at the Speed of Sound, a lot of people will only be familiar with 2 or 3 songs, and that's okay, because we've done albums, Brad and Simon, that people don't know anything about.
Yeah. Look how successful they were. Yes.
You know, so you know, that's not going to stop us. We don't pick folks' albums because they're popular. We have a collective and we have a bit of a chat about it, and you know, but I thought, yeah, we'd pick this because there's at least 4 or 5 songs on here that I absolutely adore that need to be spoken about in honor of Sir Paul McCartney. Simple.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
100%.
Do you guys got anything else that you want to talk about in relation to this album before we kick it off?
Well, I was going to... Simon, do you want to go first?
No, I don't have anything else to say about it.
Sorry, I thought I'd cut you off. For me, I just wanted to say my rankings of this record now are a lot more generous than they would have been 10 years ago or more, Andrew and Simon. Because back then I wasn't as big a fan of McCartney's solo and Wings stuff. I was more Beatles, and I was always expecting him to write Beatles material and Beatles songs. But I understand and I recognise what he was trying to achieve as well through the 70s. And the music, the supergroup thing, everything was becoming bigger and better than Ben-Hur, so to speak. And you know, but you still know it's McCartney's writing, and it's evident when you listen to the lyrics, the melodies that he writes. I don't think that's something that's programmed for different for each band. I think he just does it. That's just how he writes. He writes music the way he does, and has continued to do to this day.
Yeah. 100%.
John's D3, if everyone wants to know when Brad Foley first introduced you to this record, Brad.
It would have been early 90s, 100%, early 90s. But, you know, it took, I reckon, a lot longer to get into the Wings than other things like James Gang. I was straight into it.
Yeah. John ZD351, eh? The show will never be the same without him.
He's a clown.
All right, we're going to kick this track off, this gig off, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being polite and patient. First track is Another Day, released as a single in 1971. And according to Mr. Wikipedia, and I'm currently going through a Beatles Paul McCartney phase, so I'm halfway through Brad and Simon, my 4th or 5th watch of the Let It Be, so you can see where he's working on this during the Let It Be session. So it's kind of nice hearing that. And again, I just want to make a slight little detour, if you can allow me, gentlemen, to see George Harrison in the first episode, you know, show a couple of the songs that he did on his first album that we discussed, you know. So, you know, to see that again was just a nice little moment. Great film, and we've ranked that already, folks, on the channel. If you haven't watched it, somewhere above Brad at 23 minutes, there's going to be a card above Brad's head telling you to go and watch those Let It Be shows that we've done. So put your hand up, Brad, to where put
wrong hand.
There. Yeah, that's it's going to be there. Yeah, there's going to be a show card there for you guys, because we did a great job on those shows. Outstanding job. Go and watch them. Okay, guys. Another day. According to the critics, this may be a weak song for a lot of people. I'm going to say this, Simon and Brad, if there is a weak song on this album, it could be this. I'm not saying it might be, but this is where I may agree with some of the critics at the time when they released this song. It could be. But the star for me, Brad, on this track has to be those acoustic guitars. It's just a beautiful song with those acoustic guitars. 9 out of 10, Brad.
Yeah. Well, Another Day for me, it's a great acoustic ditty. You know, it's a great, well-written song. Very catchy melody. I mean, Paul McCartney is a genius at writing wonderful melodies. He just comes up with them naturally. Even without lyrics, he'll hum out the melody, and it's in his head. He just writes lyrics to suit the melody. There's some great bass playing through it and great guitar work. I think there's some wonderful musicianship going on. I love the part of the song where it goes, "Sometimes you feel so sad." It's a very clever lyric. It sort of makes you think about day-to-day life and definitely invokes some emotion towards that. And fantastic backing vocals. And of course, Paul McCartney's lead vocal is fantastic. I gave it 8.5 out of 10, Simon and Andrew. Simon.
Yes, we'll get into this more, but I think for me, I did think of this on my own and went and then found it in some research that it did remind me of Eleanor Rigby. It has the 3 sections. It has 3 different sections knitted together as a thing, and that reminded me. I was thinking, no, that's a bit like Eleanor Rigby. And then I went and read it, and which is like, we all like validation, don't we, of our own little pet theories, and that cheered me up no end. But I think that it's that. Clearly, that's where that comes from, and there's a direct line between the 2 things, and quite Beatlesque in its construction, as I say, with the 3 different sections. I think you're right. He has a great ear for melody, doesn't he? In arrangement, Paul McCartney's not afraid to do anything, and it's basically an acoustic song, isn't it? The first song, basically an acoustic song with some bit of electric and a bit of bass and some drums and things, but quite simple. And I think that's from when he started off, his first 2 albums are his first album, and Ram, he pretty much did all himself, didn't he? He played pretty much all of it. Not so much on this one, he had some other people to help, but the first album certainly. I was surprised by this. They didn't put "Maybe I'm Amazed" on it, but I know it's technically not a Wings track, but because that's a really, really great song. And, I'm surprised they didn't do it. But no, I gave this 8 out of 10, but never a skip. I think a good opener, and I say with those links back to his sort of Beatles past, a good idea. I don't know if I did look at this a bit. I think the album is chronological as well. Is it chronological? I'm not sure whether it is or not.
It's chronological.
I think it is, isn't it? Yeah, it is chronological. Yeah. So earliest song from one of his earlier albums.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
sorry, Simon, I interrupted you.
No, I was gonna hand back to you, but
okay.
But you already handed back.
Thanks, guys, for your comments on the opening track. Let us know too, because Brad and Simon and I love hearing what you guys think about these tracks and these songs and these numbers. Hugh reckons it's 8.5 out of 10. So it looks like we're all on the money there, folks. The second track is Silly Love Songs. Came out in 1976 off a great album called Wings at the Speed of Sound. Go and check that album out. It's just bordering on a masterpiece of an album. One of the best opening bass riffs, Brad and Simon, in my opinion. It's one of the best. It was certainly one of the bass riffs that I heard in my head when I was a young guy listening to this on the radio, along with Fleetwood Mac's, John McVie, Go Your Own Way. The bass track on that is just... there's something about these bass tracks that I love. The tonality that Paul gets on his bass on this track is incredible. His ability to use the bass in a musical sentence, Brad, is fantastic. One of the interesting things that I've picked up in my study of learning the bass over the last couple of years, I love, and we've spoken about this a lot on the show, about how I just love the bass and what it can do and how it adds to a song. The melody line is linear and the bass is linear as well. And then you've got chords which are vertical in a song structure. And McCartney talks about this, and this is one of the reasons why he's so great as a bass player. And this is something that he does a little bit later on, and we can talk about it, but we'll talk about it now. McCartney will often redo his bass tracks. He'll lay his bass down with the drums, and then when he's recording the vocals, his melody, he'll redo his bass to follow the melody that he's doing in the song. Again, a remarkable thing for the guy to do that. It says, my notes say, Brad, please turn over. So I have to turn over. I'm not going to say much. I'm going to give you guys something to say. That opening bass riff is fantastic. It's a simple bass riff. Even a guy like me can play it. But it's just amazing. Some of the best bass riffs, Brad, as you know, are just with 3 or 4 notes. That's all you need. It's a masterpiece. It's a great song. That bass riff just alone is worth a Brad score. Brad.
Oh, beautiful. Silly love song. Andrew, I think you've been reading a lot of my notes, or you've had a view of them, because I've written here, great bass line. The melody of the bass line alone is catchy, and it's actually a big part of the song. Really, it's actually a big part of the hook for the song. By far, it's the highlight of the song for me. Actually, the bass line. Great lyrics and vocals, great backing vocals, very musical, especially with the orchestrated parts. And, one thing I have to say about Paul McCartney, he has an amazing sense of melody. He really knows how to write a catchy hook to a song. It was evident throughout the Beatles' career, solo career, the Wings. He knows how to write a song that's catchy, regardless of whether you like the song or not. You end up bopping your head along and you start singing along with it because it's that simple. It is a silly love song. It's a great song. I gave it 9.5 out of 10, guys. Never a skip.
Awesome.
Cool. So, clearly it was written as a rebuttal to music critics who criticised McCartney for writing lightweight love songs. But over the years, people said, "Oh, he sings love songs. He writes love songs. He's so soppy at times." So that's what Paul McCartney wrote as a kind of rebuttal to them. It's all, as you said, it has a fantastic bass line. I think that we should make note of the fact it has multiple vocal parts sung in counterpoint, which apparently was a reference to the Beach Boys' "God Only Knows." A song that McCartney cited as one of his favourite songs. So I think he took that and incorporated it into this. I think he also allowed the horn section to create their own parts for the song as well. Wasn't quite so controlling about it. The other thing I'd say about it is that cash register rhythm at the beginning is a kind of, just as a start, God, nicked it from Pink Floyd possibly or something like that. But never afraid to introduce a bit of avant-garde around the outside, Paul. Sort of some strange things as well. This song, I'd say, and I sort of had a bit of a thing about this. So this is a piano song, basically. So he's gone from acoustic guitar. This one's a piano song as well. So a slightly different. A different instrument, different feel. Gonna get shot. I can't bear this song. 6 out of 10. Often a skip. Oh, God. Something we do with history. I understand it. I get it intellectually, but if you ask me, it's just no. I can't deal with it, and it would go in my books. I'm gonna get banned. I'm gonna get banned in a minute, in only a minute. But I have to be true to myself. I have to be true to myself, and I kind of can't get past the I understand it's a kind of pastiche and stuff, but I can't get past it as a thing.
Simon, I've got to say, 15 years ago, I probably would have ranked it around the same, to be honest with you.
Me too.
Yeah. I just can't.
I get it.
You know, it's like I have a gut reaction to these things as much as anything else. You know, put it on, and it's either and it's like, whilst as I say, I understand. You know, I agree with Andrew. It's got a fantastic bass line. Paul McCartney's a fantastic bass player. It's a fantastic. I just can't get past it. You know, as the thing, and after like 30 seconds, I'm like, next.
No problem. And that's good advice from John ZD351, as usual. Something about the clowns. If you don't like the clowns, don't come to the circus. So, yeah. Next track, folks, is Live and Let Die. Now, I've got to mention this, and I know that Brad is a great, big fan of Guns N' Roses. And I've got to tell you this. You know, I knew this song by this band before they did their version, Brad and Simon. But I had a couple of friends that I used to work with and hang out with, you know, and they were Gunners fans, and they said, "Oh, you know that new Guns N' Roses song, Live and Let Die. It's a fantastic song, Andrew. You know, who wrote that song? Because was it Axel? You know, or was it Izzy? Sounds like something that Izzy would write." And I said, "No, it was Paul McCartney. Get the fuck out of here! Paul McCartney would never write that. No. You know." So anyway, I'll never forget that conversation. You know, Brad, you know how you can pull out your phone and go to Wikipedia these days now to prove a point to somebody. Yep. You couldn't do that in 1991, could you?
No. 100% not.
You know, and these guys, they never believed me. Anyway, I digress as usual. Brad and Simon released in 73. Paul McCartney's version, soundtrack for a Bond album titled Live and Let Die. Great film. Big Bond fan. They did the whole score, didn't they, Simon? I understand. I'm not familiar with any of the other songs on the score or the soundtrack, Brad and Simon. Haven't done any research on it. Love this song. It was a radio song when I was growing up. The star for me on this, Brad, is George Martin's orchestral arrangement on this. Yeah. You know, it's just, it's an opera in production. I love it. George Martin is just a genius, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
This is not a Brad score. This is 10 out of 10. Brad.
Ooh.
Look, I'm glad you mentioned the Guns N' Roses version of it. You know, it needs to be mentioned. I know we're not talking about Guns N' Roses, but you know, for a very, very, very long time, I preferred the Guns N' Roses version over this one. For a few reasons, but I always found that this version of the song was not quite as intense and heavy, even though it is, because of the tension with the dissonance in the notes and chords. Yeah, there's that dun 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 dun. There's a dissonance thing going there over the top of the root chord. But now, you know, all these years later, when I listen to this version of it, I do kind of prefer this version because you put it in perspective of when it was written and why it was written for the Bond film. It was put in that Bond film and the James Bond film, as you mentioned, Andrew. And for me, I mean, I love the intro of the song. It's a great piano and vocal, the way Paul McCartney sings. It's got that real openness to his voice, the way he sings, and I love how he does that. The backing vocals are fantastic. I love the tension in the song after the build-up. You at this point, you can really tell the song's written, you know, it suits a Bond film. And I think this is effectively one of the first real rock songs for a Bond film too, which is, you know, it created a trend like of artists after that writing rock songs for Bond films, including just slightly deviating. Chris Cornell's version of his song that he wrote for a Bond film. You should go check that out. Paul's vocal on this is outstanding. You know, I love it when he pushes that top register of his voice. He used to do it in the Beatles a lot, you know, like "Oh Darling" and things like that. when he pushes that top register, I don't think there's many people that can sing as good as Paul McCartney. I think he's got one of the greatest rock voices of all time. I can't say much more than what Andrew's already said. It's definitely a 10 out of 10 for me. It's never a skip. Simon.
Yeah, for sure. Just a bit of background. Harry Saltzman and Cubby Broccoli, the producers, invited McCartney to write the theme song. So McCartney read the book, apparently the Edith Fleming book, and wrote that afternoon. I wrote the song. Went in next week and did it. I mean, that's true wizardry at work, isn't it? It's
yeah.
I think apparently Harry Saltzman originally was interested in having Shirley Bassey or Thelma Houston sing it instead of Wings, but Martin said McCartney would allow the song to be used in the movie only if Wings were able to perform it in the opening credits. So they did, and clearly it was an opportunity for McCartney to work with George Martin again.
Yeah,
he did all the orchestrations and things, but I don't have much to say. I think that it's one of his great songs, isn't it, Paul? His solo things, great songs. I think it's a fantastic production. Again, several parts to it. There's several parts. There's a piano bit. There's a big brass bit. There's an orchestral bit. Even that tiny bit of reggae thing that they do is clearly sort of bolting it together, and a beautiful cello part towards the end, and that last kind of chord, that last bit is just you could just. I mean, it feels to me like he wrote it so that it would kind of merge into the film kind of thing, and the film would start on that sort of tension orchestral bit at the end. So 10 out of 10 from me, never a skip.
Brilliant.
I don't want to rehash or do a review or anything or whatever, but I did forget to mention, guys, that it's a strong song, and it's also a strong piece of work from George Martin, as you mentioned, Andrew. I just wanted to get that note in.
Yeah.
No problem. There's a good comment here from Jim. The story is when George Martin presented to the Bombay producers, they wanted to get someone else to sing it, and they were told no. So yeah. Look, it's a great song. Everybody seems to be on par with us, folks. So thank you for that. The next song is Genius Farm, released in '74. And my gosh, we're going to be showing some pics later, but Jimmy McCulloch is the guitar player on this, and I urge you to go and see the live versions, the live videos of this song, Wings, over America. It's just fantastic watching the interaction between this band, that tight stage setup that we love to see, that they've got with the guitars just leaning up against the amp. It's just brilliant. Jimmy McCulloch was a phenomenal guitar player. A tragedy, his story. Go and research his story, folks. We're going to be doing on this show before the end of the year, I promise you, for our Scots friends. We've got 2 Scotsmen in the chat here. We're going to be doing Stone the Crows, which is Jimmy McCulloch's band that he was in before he joined Wings. And there's some footage again of Jimmy with that band playing phenomenally well. Just a phenomenal guitar player. Did I remind you? Did I say that? How many times have I said that, Brad? Can I say it again?
Say it again.
Okay.
Say it again.
I just think Jimmy McCulloch is just underrated as a British guitar player. Brad and Simon, again, that bass playing for me on Genius Farm is just fantastic. And again, when you go and watch the live clips of Paul, you can see how he gets in it. The melody that we have come to appreciate and that we've spoken about already on his bass playing is fantastic. The passing notes that he does when he goes from a chord to the other chord, and those passing notes, it's just effortless for the guy. And the way that he just does that with the drums on this track, it's phenomenal. Great rocker. I love it. I've given this 10 out of 10. Brad.
Yeah. Again, you're reading all my notes, Andrew.
Sorry, brother.
Well, don't be sorry. It just means that, great minds think alike, Andrew.
I ain't gonna disagree with that.
Yeah, I'll touch on Jimmy McCulloch's lead guitar work here. I love that guitar harmony stuff at the intro. It's wonderful. Again, a very solid bass line from Paul McCartney. This song, this is probably one of the first songs on this Greatest Hits package that has that 70s supergroup feel to the song. For me, anyway, great guitar throughout the song. Paul's vocal is very strong and great lyrics. If you really focus on the lyrics, great lyrics. Guitar work, from that 1 minute sort of sounds like it could be someone like Jimmy Page playing to me. It's such a great guitar piece in the song, and the guitar work is fantastic. It's an epic song, and the band is absolutely on fire. It's a really catchy melody and hook. I gave it 10 out of 10. Andrew and Simon, never skip. Rock Professor.
So, just a bit of background. That's me. He wrote Junior's Farm. He was staying at the in Lebanon, Tennessee, at the farm of Curly Putnam Jr., which clearly Junior's Farm. That's where it comes from. And he was laying low there. So that's where that line comes from, I think, as a thing. And it was the last Paul McCartney song to be released on Apple Records before he went to Parliament.
Yeah, wonderful.
So I've not, clearly you've picked up all the major stuff. I would say that this is song 4. It's the entry of the electric guitar, pretty much. We've had a bit on the Live and Let Die, but pretty much this is electric guitar song, and this is where sort of I'd say the entry of the electric guitar comes in. He's getting his rock head back on, McCartney. Yeah, and I'd just say that the coda is a different part of the song, isn't it? It has a major part of the song, and then that coda bit is a different part that he's bolted onto the end. 9 out of 10 from me. Never a skip. Great song from Paul.
Brilliant. So yes, thank you, Hugh, for being excited. We've been talking about doing Stone the Crows on the channel for a couple of years, but it's definitely locked in. Promise.
Yeah, Les Harvey as well, brother of Alex Harvey. Les Harvey was the other guitar player in Stone the Crows, brother of Alex Harvey.
Yeah. Jimmy took his place. He I can't remember.
Well, after he electrocuted himself.
That's right. Yeah, he electrocuted himself on stage or something like that, which is a tragedy. So, yeah. But more on that when we do the show. Go and check it out. Do some homework if you want to go and watch it. I might put the link if you're watching on a replay and you want to see the link of at least half a dozen songs. Go and watch it. With a little luck is the next track, Brad.
Yeah.
From London Town, another great album. Came out in '78. Huge album. This was the solo off that album. Brad and Simon. Wow, the synthesizers are just remarkable on this. The British were starting to sort of get into that kind of what is it? Instrument as a standalone instrument, and then they took off in the early 80s with it when you had the New Romantics, using synthesizers. Both Linda and Paul sing really, really well on this track. It's fantastic. And Brad mentioned it earlier, when Paul's singing with that rasp, that high register, with that raspy, he sounds pretty good. Hard to beat. One little thing with the bass playing on this too, folks, you're not getting a lot of passing notes, Brad. You're getting Paul McCartney just playing the chords with the bass, so he can just, he doesn't have to go out there and do Paul McCartney all the time as a bass player.
Holding it down.
Look, yeah. Huge radio song here in New Zealand, folks. Brad and Simon, I'm giving this 9 out of 10. Love the track. It's never a skip.
Ooh, okay. With a little luck, I love that little mellow sort of keyboard intro. Really sets the mood for the song. When the vocals come in, it's 100% it's definitely a Paul McCartney written song.
Yeah.
Very synth driven sound, as you've mentioned, Andrew. Catchy chorus. The whole song has a wonderful melody and very catchy. I like the bass line, how it's solid, and it just keeps it on path. There's, like you said, Andrew, not a lot of passing notes in between what he does, like with Silly Love Song, for example, straight, and does it wonderfully. And musically, it's written extremely well. I gave it a 7 out of 10, and it's never a skip.
Awesome. Good point. Good point, John.
Rock Professor.
Yeah, yes, John's just made the point that if this is from London Town and we haven't done Band on the Run yet, it's not chronological. So that's another theory up in smoke. That's good call, John. Yeah, that's clearly not. They thought about it more than that in terms of the programming of it. So with a little luck, this was written on Paul McCartney's farm in Scotland, and recorded on a motor yacht called the Fair Carol in the Virgin Islands. Nice work if you can get it, along with several other tracks for London Town. The yacht had a mobile 24-track recording studio installed on it. So very nice. And when they weren't recording, McCartney and his family and the band lived on 3 other yachts. Hope they didn't get seasick. And this is the follow-up to Mull of Kintyre. As a single, this is the follow-up to Mull of Kintyre. As you said, this has kind of got electric piano and keys and early synthesizers on it, And I think we should make the point that these, that Linda got a lot of criticism for her keyboard playing, saying, "Oh, she only uses one finger." Yeah, but these are monophonic synthesizers. You can only use one finger. If you start playing chords, it just takes the first key you press down. So you could only play it one-fingered, which I think is a point worth making. In her defense, yeah, if you can only play one finger, you can only play one finger, can't you? So do the Human League. So I think it's got that introduction as well. Again, Paul's keeping up with the times. He's not afraid to introduce these kind of instruments into his band, into his writing process, and into his songs. As I've said, kind of, I think there's some really cool harmony parts on it. Again, that thing about morphing into a different part, it seems to be very much a part of McCartney's later writing. That taking back, I don't know whether he had them separately or whether he just did it when he was writing, but it seems like he had and sort of put them together. I mean, lots of bands do it, don't they? Have a bit and they have another bit, and they go, "Oh, maybe those two fit together." So I think that's really good, really cool. I think the keyboard sounds have dated a bit. I think they date it to that era, which is okay. But I think these days, I gave this 7.5 out of 10, but not a skip. I think it's fine as a song, and he plays and sings very well on it. So that was just
brilliant. Welcome back, Holly. Thank you.
Hey, Holly, woken up.
Thank you for joining us after your conversation. Band on the Run is the next track, and if you guys might remember, we ranked this album last year, this time in honour of Paul McCartney's 80th birthday. So we have done a full Wings Paul McCartney album on the channel. And at 53 minutes, if you're watching on a replay, put your hand up, Brad. There'll be a show card right there for you to go and watch that album review we did. Did a pretty good job on that one too. Band on the Run, as John ZD351's pointed out, this is not chronological because this track was released in 1974. What can I say about this track, folks? The call and response between the guitar and the keys at the start's just incredible, isn't it? And then you've got that bass playing of Paul McCartney behind the lyrics. Again, classic McCartney. Again, if we ever get out of here, again, Paul McCartney can't escape from his Beatles friends. It was apparently a thing that George Harrison used to say often when they were signing the Apple contracts and all that. And if you go and watch some of the footage, Brad and Simon, you can see where the Beatles are standing there with a mountain of paperwork and they're signing. Remember, and George Harrison turns around and says, "I have no idea what I'm signing here," to the camera, but he's signing. So apparently this is, something that goes back to something that George used to say. Again, I love that. If it's true or not, we don't know. Something I read. Brad, Denny Lane is incredible on the guitar here, isn't it? You know, it's just a phenomenal piece of guitaring. And I mentioned this, I think, when we first did this album. I was told a long time ago that Paul McCartney played all the instruments on this track, on this album, which is not true. He had the band obviously perform. I think on his first album, McCartney and Ram, he played all the instruments maybe, but certainly not on this. So this is definitely a band collaboration. Brad, I think I gave this a Brad score when we did this back a year ago. I can't give this anything other than a Brad score. It's just a remarkable piece of music. It's just phenomenal. Love it. Never a skip. Brad.
Yeah. Look, I don't know where even to start with this song. I love the intro to the song. Fantastic guitar work. You know, it's an epic journey, this song. You got to put it down to that epic journey vibe. Denny Lane is just fantastic on his lead guitar work throughout the song. Paul McCartney writes, you know, lyrics a lot of the time like a story novel. And, you know, in this song, his lyrics, it's like he's written this amazing book and he's presenting it in a musical form. Great musicianship on the song. The bass line is fantastic. Drums are great. The keyboard work is fantastic. The backing vocals sound huge on this record. You know, it's such a, you know, and it's leaning back to the Beatles days again with the vocals. They need to be, the backing vocals are a big part of the song. I love that, you know, 1 minute 20 section when he sings, if I ever get out of here, that part. I get chills even thinking about
Uncanny.
it. You know, I get goosebumps. It's wonderful. You know, 2 minutes 15 onwards, it's like another song. Which is all part of the song journey. It's a very catchy melody, great lyrics. I love the guitar work on this song. Like I said, I think this is his best work since the Beatles. It's a 100 out of 10. Never a skip for me. Simon.
Yep.
Yes, indeed. I think you're right about that, Brad. I think this is the apex of his post Beatles work, isn't it? Band on the Run.
Yes.
It has that 3 distinct parts kind of bolted together, moving seamlessly from one to the next. It's got orchestrations on it done by Tony Visconti, who was hired, who had to do. He was given 3 days to write arrangements for the whole album. That's quite some work. That is, including a 60-person orchestra for the title track. That's quite hard work, if you ask me. But 3 days worth. But as you said, you know, those 3 bits, the orchestration and everything makes this a classic, doesn't it? An absolute classic song. And you know, this would fit into any of his eras, any of that was, you know, alongside any of the best work that he's ever done. I gave this 100 out of 10 too. I went back and looked at my original score. I'm staying with my original score on reflection. Yes, and I think, as I say, that the apex of his work, his solo work, really, as a song.
Yeah,
awesome.
Andrew,
I'm glad that we're all on point there, Brad. No one's going to be timed out.
No.
We are at the end of side 1, so yes, photo time.
Okay, just bear with me, folks. I'm going to fire through these photos because there's a few there that we want to talk about. So just hold if there's anything that you guys want to discuss in particular, if that's fine. So so there's a great little still there from Wings when they're touring across America. Always love that. First Class, Brad.
Yep.
Jimmy McCulloch there on the Ovation. Just a phenomenal guitar player, and there they are. That's the back screen for this show. Jimmy with his SG, Paul with his Rickenbacker. This is a pick before a gig in Seattle, and this was sold out. And this is what they were doing in America in 76, 75, 76, Brad and Simon, selling out stadiums.
Which is what McCartney always wanted to do, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So this is where I get a little bit self-indulgent here, bro. So this is Jimmy McCulloch, again, young guy, playing his SG. There he is there, a young guy, young skinny little Scotsman. Jimmy with Linda. They loved Jimmy. They were heartbroken when he left the band.
Yeah.
Another pick of Jimmy playing at bass. And that was another thing too that Denny and Jimmy did when Paul was playing keyboards or playing guitar. You know, they would often play bass, you know, when they were live. Silly Love Songs, a publicity shot there.
Funny shot.
Now, this is a little bit of history. This is Pete Townsend. He kind of discovered Jimmy when he was playing in his first band. So he took him to England and kind of nursed him along. So that's one pick. Pete again with Jimmy. You guys might remember, or if you're not aware, that Jimmy McCulloch played in a band called Thunderclap Newman before he, around the time.
Townsend.
Yeah. That's Pete Townsend. He discovered, kind of discovered Jimmy and brought him down to the UK. There's the Wings logo. Brad, in 1980, I had a T-shirt, a green T-shirt with that Wings logo on the back of it, bro. Man, I thought I was shit up, bro.
You still got it?
No.
Oh.
You never get rid of rock T-shirts, Andrew.
I know.
Never get rid of rock. I've got piles of rock T-shirts in my cupboard. You never get rid of them.
So these are Paul and Denny playing guitar.
Mm.
Pick of Linda. Denny, Linda, and Paul. They became that was basically Wings towards the end of Wings, wasn't it?
Yeah. Very much so.
Linda and Paul again with their David Bowie kind of Ziggy Stardust hairdos going on there, Brad.
Yeah, Bowie was very influential with the fashion and haircuts, and at that point.
That's late 70s. And here's a pic of Linda with that Bowie kind of cut that Brad was talking about.
Or a mullet, as it's more commonly.
Yeah.
So that's them playing together. Paul loved the idea when he was going to form Wings. He wanted his wife to play in the band.
Yeah.
He loved that. Wanted that to happen. Made it happen. Good on him.
Yeah, of course. And you know,
Took a lot of stick for it.
Yeah.
She had a lot of criticism for her supposed lack of musical ability or whatever. But it was never about that, was it? It was about him wanting his wife to go with him and be in the band with him and stuff.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I don't think they spent very, very much time apart. They never.
No,
really
they didn't. Famously never spent a night apart from the day they married.
Yeah.
Which is remarkable. So that's a still from Roadshow, Rock Show. Go and check out Rock Show. It's available. You can stream that. That's Denny playing the bass that we mentioned before. When the Rock Professor was out, Denny would often play bass live on some of the tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Paul and Denny again with Henry McCulloch. And we're going to talk about Henry a little bit more on side 2. He was the other guitarist. No relation to Jimmy. One was an Irishman, one was a Scotsman. Wings over America. Brad, I had this poster. Bro.
Still got it?
No.
No. Oh.
No, yeah, I know.
Famous.
Naughty boy,
Yes.
eh?
Took it down, put it away. It's
I
with his
can't lie,
Ricky
bro.
bass. It's famous Rickenbacker bass.
I can't lie, bro.
Andrew, just a slight deviation, and we're still
Yep.
talking about Paul McCartney. Well done with your show this morning on the Hofner bass.
Thank you, bro.
Yes.
Yeah.
I watched that.
Yeah.
I'm going to point here. Dag it.
Thank you, bro. That's Henry. Again, playing an SG. There's something about the SG that these English guys loved. Aye.
Light.
Yeah. And there's Paul. He paid tribute to his bandmate Henry when he passed away. And the last pick, folks, there is after they filmed Mull of Kintyre, they're all having a cup of tea, which is a very English thing to do.
Oh, I feel like
The only thing to do.
Yeah. Thank you for mentioning my Hofner video, because I wanted to do that because when I got the Hofner and I did the trade, I had an epiphany, and I could understand why McCartney loved it, because it's like a guitar. It's like, it's not like a bass, Brad.
Yeah. Well, it was, I've always wanted to get, for keepsake, like an Epiphone Casino and a Hofner bass, just for the sake of it.
Yep.
When I set up my studio eventually in my home, I'm going to have a Ringo drum kit.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now, what Ringo drum kit are you going to get? Are you going to get the one with the single toms that he used early on, or are you going to get the Hollywood drum set that he used and let him be with the 2 rack toms?
I'm a fan of 2 rack toms, but I like the early kit. I like the mother of pearl Ludwig's.
Yeah. I'll go with the single tom because Charlie liked the single tom too.
Yeah. No, single tom and a floor tom. That's enough.
Just let me say one thing, folks. It was interesting about the cup of tea that the rock professor backed us up, because it's the only thing an Englishman's going to do is have a cup of tea. Like I said, I've been watching the Let It Be thing, and it's just amazing how that little that tall ginger nut guy, the guy with the ginger hair, he always comes in with a tray of cup of tea. Does that about 3 or 4 times. Cup of tea, and they're having a cup of tea, and John Lennon comes back, and he must have been on the piss the night before, and he comes in and he goes, "I need a cup of tea. I could drink a gallon of tea."
White, 2 sugars.
Oh my Lord.
Yes. Oh, yes. You see, because that's what we do in the UK. You have a cup of tea. If in doubt, have a cup of tea. Could I say, proper producing from Mr. Walton with the Hofner bass, followed by us doing Paul McCartney. This is tie-ups. I'm very impressed.
Well, thank you, and it was kind of aligned actually, because when my friend mentioned that he'd got this bass and he didn't like it and he thought that it was a piece of junk, and I sort of said to him, well, have you set it up properly or something like that? And then when he said, oh no, it was a Hofner, one of the cheap Hofners, I said, oh, you don't like it? And he goes, no. I said, no, they're shit basses, bro. They're not good. The
reverse psychology of the salesman. Yeah, they're rubbish. I'll give you a quid for it. Yes.
I'll take it off your hand.
What did you trade for it, Andrew? Do you mind sharing, or you don't want to?
A Chinese Telecaster.
Okay.
Yeah.
That he bought for $50 from a garage sale. Hope the bloke you talked to done watch this.
No. It was a fair trade. It was a fair trade. But something along those lines. It was a piece of. Yeah. So yeah. I got the better deal.
Jim says the guy with the T is Mel Evans.
No, I know who Mel Evans is. No, Mel's the guy with the glasses. No, there's a young guy. I'll take, because I'm watching it. I'll take a photo and I'll put it here on the communities page. And yeah, I'm not having to go against redheads or gingers or whatever, but they're distinctive, aren't they? They're distinctive.
Stop him now, Brad. Stop him now. Divert him. We're into trouble. We're in dangerous waters.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not Mel. And there's a new biography. While you're talking about Mel, who's this guy? Womack. Womack is coming out with a new biography on Mel, so that's going to be probably worth reading, because Mel was in the middle of it all too. He saw it all, bro. Right right from the start. Saw it all.
Saw it all.
Okay. Are we back to work?
Back to
work. We're so sorry, Uncle Albert. 1971, off Ram. Brad, this is exactly what Paul McCartney wanted to do in 1970. This is exactly what Paul wanted to do. The whole thing, the rock professor's been telling you folks about how McCartney loves dividing his songs up into sections, and that goes all the way back to Eleanor Rigby, back to 66, being big part of the storytelling and the musicality of who Paul McCartney is. He's not just happy. He's not going to do Love, Love Me Do for 40 years, Brad. He's not that kind of musician. And Uncle Albert's got, geez, Simon, it's got more than 3 parts. I'm sure of it.
12, sir. 12
that's right.
parts.
It's exactly, and this is the point that I want people to remember. This is exactly what Paul wanted to do in 1970. This is part of what he wanted to do as a musician, and stuff the critics as well, because the critics weren't happy with this. They saw it as I understand, and it was a big thing they spoke about it a little bit in the Wingspan documentary. If you guys haven't seen that came out in 2000, where he said, look, I've never really done music for the critics. I do it for the fans. Simon, this song's an incredible song. I'm giving the song 10 out of 10 because it's got 12 parts to it. It's just a remarkable piece of
one for each part.
Yes.
12 out of 10. Yes.
Brad, you either love the song or hate it.
Look, I'm going to go against the grain and say I never used to like this song. I never used to connect with this song. But, like I said, the last decade or so, I've become very fond of Wings, because there's only, like I said, I'd normally put on Beatles if I want to listen to McCartney. There's only so many years you can keep putting on the same Beatles songs before you need a little bit of variety just to add a bit of spice to your life. And you can always go back to the Beatles, but I think it's a really good laid-back song. Some great, like I put here, wonderful musicianship in this song. It's very delicate. The bass work is great vocal. 2 minutes 15. The song, takes a bit of a turn, and it's like a journey. And you mentioned that he loved doing, like Eleanor Rigby, a journey in the song. And in 1970, I know, we got a snippet of it with Abbey Road.
Yep.
With the way that they structured like a medley, so to speak. And I'm assuming a lot of that would have been coming from McCartney driving that. And I think the song's great. I'll give the song like 7 out of 10 and never a skip. Simon.
Yeah. So as Albert is Albert Kendall, who married Paul McCartney's Aunt Millie, and became Uncle Albert, and provided the inspiration for a portion of this song. Albert had the habit of getting drunk and reading from the Bible, which is the only time he read from the good book, when he was drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to absolve himself of his sins whilst committing them, by the sound of it.
Sounds Catholic to me.
Quite nice. Yeah. Catholic Irish, do you think? Possibly. Maybe. Nobody knows, but I agree. It's an interesting that thing. As you said, it goes back that putting different parts together, lots of musical textures. got comic character voices, hasn't it? A bit like Yellow Submarine in it. That sort of and a posh voice section, and it's got the double time stuff, piano, almost a musical section with the piano and the horn that hands across the water and things. So clearly put together as a piece. And I think it is, it divided people at the time and divides people now, basically.
Yep.
I think it's fun. I think it's good. I gave it 7.5 out of 10, but never a skip. I think it has lots of fun in it and lots of artistic merit to it. So I wouldn't skip it.
Yeah, Johnny Heartbreaker's right. That chorus, hands across the water. It's hilarious, isn't it? But again, I don't want to do a conclusion, but the rock professor's right. And I didn't want to mention this. I'm glad that my co-host did. That going back to Yellow Submarine with that with the acting and going on. Again, very English. If English musicians aren't dressing up as women, which is something that they like to do, the it's true. If they're not dressing up as women. Okay, if they're not dressing up as women, Brad, they're pretending they're playing submarines in the bath, aren't they?
I think you should stop now. No, really, I do. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh, dear.
High is the next track, folks. And again, this proves John ZD1355792377776 is on the ball here. This is from 1972, and I'm sure the rock professor will tell you a little bit about this bit of controversy involved in this song. I won't mention it. Good to see a bit of controversy with a rock and roll song, Brad. Always love that. Love the slide guitar on this. It's got to be Henry playing the slide on this. Has to be. I don't think I can recall off the top of my head Paul McCartney playing slide. I haven't seen it. I can't hear it. I can't think of it. I tried scanning my memory for a couple of seconds there. So it has to be Henry playing slide on this. And Paul's vocals on this track. Another little rocker. Love it. Great live song. Go and check it out. Again, I'm going to ask you, this is a gateway into other stuff. Go and see the Roadshow, and you can see they're just having a great time singing this, and the crowd loves it. Great rocker. I've given this 9 out of 10, Brad.
Yeah. Hi. I love that bluesy chug feel that's in this song. It's very rare that they sort of went down a blues thing, but this is the Wings doing blues music for me. That's how I saw it. And I love that. The melody's very catchy. The chorus is obviously very catchy. Great vocal, and like I said, I love when McCartney sings this way. He's wonderful. Great guitar work I put there. Bass line is perfect for the song. It's a catchy song. I've never really given this song much of a chance until this week, I'll be honest with you. And normally I probably would have rated this around 7 out of 10. I've given it 8.5 out of 10 and never a skip.
That's a good score.
Yeah. Simon.
So, yes, the song was banned. I remember this at the time. The song was banned by the BBC for what they described as inappropriate sex and drugs references.
Yeah.
Clearly, high. We're going to get high. I don't know what you're talking about, Paul. Although I think at some point, McCartney expressed surprise about the ban when he was comparing it to Bob Dylan's "Everybody Must Get Stoned." It seemed to have got played all the time on the radio without a second thought. So, and I think the old "Get You Ready for My Body" gun is possibly suggested in some way. But
well, the Beatles used to sing when they used to sing "I Want to Hold Your Hand." They purposely used to sing "I Get High, I Get High." They purposely, so it's not, it's
not new.
Not new.
No, but clearly the BBC, they're a bit slow to catch on, but they waited a while before they went. But as you said, it's a jaunty, sort of rock and roll boogie song, isn't it? And sort of offspring of Get Back, really, isn't it? Son of Get Back in a way like that. So I think it's a nice double time section with the organ and stuff. I gave this 8 out of 10, never a skip. So I remember at the time it was a really jolly song. It was really sort of McCartney kind of back to form, really, and sort of doing some rock and roll stuff, which was always a positive thing. So 8 out of 10 from me, not a skip.
Awesome. Next track, folks, is Let 'Em In, released in '76 off the album Wings at the Speed of Sound that I've made a reference to. Go and check that album out. Brad, a trombone solo. Wow. That's edgy. That's Paul McCartney for you, though. He loves the brass. So, if he's hearing this in his head, he's going to put it in there. And you got Jimmy on the bass, playing the bass, folks, on this track. And it's just typical Paul McCartney lyrics too, isn't it? And I love the false little fade out as well. This was a big hit radio song when I was growing up, Simon. I don't know if it was a big radio song in the UK. It was huge here. Look, I can't give this a 10 out of 10, Brad. I love the song. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I love it because it's, a great radio song. Brad.
Yeah, look, it was a radio song here as well. I'll put here great piano work as well. Bass, straight drumming. It's just fantastic the way it's been recorded. Great vocal from Paul McCartney. Very clever lyrics. One thing I want, we mentioned about, I don't know, I forgot one of the earlier songs. Simon mentioned, I think it was Simon mentioned something about adding like effects and the register and things like that, like that influence from like Pink Floyd and things like that. He loves to add sound effects and quirky things into songs, and it works wonderfully well in this song. I gave this 8.5 out of 10, guys, and I'll hand it over to the Rock Professor.
We were I went for curry with my brother and last night, and he was saying, "What are you doing tomorrow morning?" I went, "Wings Greatest Hits," and he's like, hilariously, this is one song that he would strike like that. Let him in. That's a terrible song. That should be struck off. He'd give this 0 out of 10 and put it in room 101. I think, because I'm a little more generous than that, but. This is Paul sort of shouting out several of his relatives and his friends in the song. His aunt Jin, and brother Michael, the Everly brothers, Phil and Don, Keith Moon, Uncle Ernie, and his famous former bandmate brother John, and sister Susie is a reference to Linda, who recorded under the name Susie and the Red Stripes. I think so. Bit of background. The song starts with the sound of a vibraphone mimicking the Friedland Westminster chime doorbell before the rhythm starts. You know me, I can't resist a little factoid like that, can I? It's right up my street. So it's fantastic. It's a mid-tempo kind of, as you say, it's got those bits where the style changes. So he starts off as a piano song, and then about 1:15, it goes into that military style snare drum, doesn't it? Sort of bolero type sort of drumming, and then goes back to normal. It's got a trombone solo and things. So clearly there's, again, that added instrumentation and those things. And you've got a verse just with the horns back in it. So and then back to the military snare with flutes. I think so. And as you say, a funny voice at the end, Brad, just to tee up. I gave this 7.5 out of 10, but not a skip.
Yeah.
Fantastic. 9.5 from Hugh, 9 from Alan. BBC played Walk on the Wild Side by Lou Reed.
Yeah, absolutely, Jim. They did. Yes, absolutely.
Just goes to show that the BBC don't know. Well, you could say that even today. The BBC got no idea what's going on.
We don't know. Well, they take a while to catch up, as I say.
The next track, folks, is My Love, released in '73 from Red Rose Speedway. Another great Wings album, worth checking out. And again, despite what the critics have said about this song over the years, and my gosh, I've read a lot of criticism from them about this song. The fans have gone and said this to the critics, Simon and Brad, because the fans loved it. It turned out to be a great. Sorry for being rude, but at the end of the day, the fans are going to be the ones that are going to determine whether or not something is going to be good, because they're going to go out there and buy it, and they did that, didn't they? The solo on this, Brad, by Henry is incredible. It's an incredible solo. According to Mr. Wikipedia, he had to fight his way into getting the solo his way on this track. I didn't know that. We know that McCartney in the past had been very determined when it came to how tracks should sound. And we got a glimpse of that, didn't we, on the Get Back 3-part documentary series, didn't we? Where he's trying to get that across to his bandmates about how something should sound. So we're not surprised by that. And he'd been doing that a little bit, but not to the point where it created too much problems. But Henry had a different idea on how this should sound, and McCartney let him go with it. Good on Paul. Look, I love this song. I know a lot of people over the years who have got married to this song. The song's been played at weddings. I don't know how many weddings I've been to, Brad, where, this is one of the songs. My love. Oh. Look, I love the song. Paul played it. It was sung, apparently played by strings at Linda's memorial. So clearly he loved the song. Wrote it for her. 9 out of 10, Brad.
Guys, it's just basically another silly love song, really.
Yep.
I mean, all humor aside, it's a great song, and catchy melody and chorus, some lovely lyrics, has a wonderful feel, some lovely mellow guitar work happening. Again, I love the solo, like Andrew's, explained so well. I love the tone of the guitar as well. I love the tone. Great sound. I'd be really interested to know what gear he used on the just for is a historical sort of information would be fantastic. I gave this song 8 out of 10 and never a skip, but it's a lovely song. Lovely song.
So I can tell you that he just plugs straight into the amp, Brad.
Yeah, but do you know what?
No, I don't know what the amps were and stuff, but straight in, and has pulled straight into an amp. So he wrote this in '69 or '70 as a love song to Linda. It's kind of in the style of The Long and Winding Road, isn't it? Was the thing. It's amazing. I can't get past this song. It's a little too soppy for my tastes. It's just, I can't. Well, my reaction is that that I'm like 30 seconds in, I'm like skipping it. So that's not really my thing. I give it 6 out of 10, but I would skip it
awesome.
with alacrity. But it's just not my thing. It's beautifully done, and he's a fantastic writer and things. So, but it doesn't do anything for me at all. So another one I'd be banned for, but I don't know. That's not my thing.
I'm not sure you're going to get timed out, but what do you think, Andrew?
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's the greatest hits. Yeah. No, it's certainly an album that's certainly done its job. It's a greatest hits album. It's got all the radio hits. So, and I can understand why Simon would find it a little bit, yeah. But I'm happy with my score with it, and so is John ZD351, and Alan's given it 9 out of 10. I just think from a songwriting perspective, I did a book review on the channel too, folks. I'm talking. One of the books I reviewed was Barry Miles's biography. It's an interview, actually. It's a course of interviews with Paul McCartney where he talks about the songwriting process, mainly about his time during the Beatles. But Paul McCartney does mention in there that, you know, when you write songs, and this is something that I asked Brad when I got Brad on the channel the first time when I interviewed Brad, you know, what do you feel as a man, as a musician, when you're writing a song and you're revealing something about you to people that you don't know, you know, that are going to hear something that you've written that's going to mean so much to you, you know, how do you deal with that? A lot of people can't handle that. A lot of people can't handle that, Simon. Have not been able to get past goal one and getting into the studio. But you know, yeah, I digress. I'm not concluding. I'm just sticking up for a love song. Thank you. Yeah,
that's where you're gonna tag that little video you're talking about too.
Yeah. Thanks, brother.
You got a bit of work ahead of you, Andrew.
Oh my lord! Yeah, I'll have to do that tomorrow when I come home from work. Next song, folks. Second to last song. This just blows the rock professor's theory about the second to last track being a shitter.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
I think
we blew that last week, didn't we? With your 6 review. Oh well.
Yeah. We've ranked this before. 74, folks. One of the great tracks. One of the great Paul McCartney moments. We've gone on record on this channel saying "Band on the Run" is one of the high points, probably the high point in McCartney's career. Certainly for me. But Roadshow and Wings Across America bubbles just a little bit underneath it, Brad. Do you know what I mean? Just bubbles a little bit. I think I gave this a Brad score when I ranked this with you guys a year ago. The Rock Professor mentioned, folks, the Moog bass, the Moog synthesizer, and how Linda was playing it. You know, this is the Moog with the bass line, and you can only press, as the Rock Professor said to you, you can only press one note, one key at a time. You know, so again, if you knew anything about the instrument that she was playing, you'd understand why she was only pressing one key at a time.
That's all you could do.
Hey, when you've got a guy on a big YouTube channel and Facebook group, Eric Clapton Facebook group, writing a review on 24 Nights, and he admits that he doesn't know anything about Eric Clapton or 24 Nights.
Yep.
You know.
After that, everything else is fine.
You know. Yeah. Anyway, I'm having a crack at writers that don't know anything about music.
Oh
that's going to be a constant thing.
That particular one, one got the better of me, Andrew, because normally I just move on. I don't sort of, but I thought I had to comment something there because it's not like me to do that.
No.
No, you can run away, Brad. Run away.
Yeah. So again, the Rock Professor illustrated that for you. That's the reason why she's doing that, and that's a perfect example of that instrument on this song. And the Beatles, weren't they? They were one of the first bands to use the Moog synthesizer, and I'm sure the Rock Professor will tell you a little bit more about that, because if you aren't aware of it, there is a connection with the channel, the Rock Professor, and that instrument. So we'll let him talk to you about that. Brad, Jet. Oh, Jet. You know, everybody knows that, man.
It's uncanny. If I close my eyes, it's Paul McCartney.
Oh, you know, the guitars, Paul's vocal on this. You know, is it about a horse? Is it about a dog? You know, who cares? It's just a great song. It inspired your Melbourneites to go out and form a band called Jet. They named their band Jet after this song. It's just a great song. I love it too. I love the yells. What you said? What you said? You know, when he's, you know, Paul McCartney's underneath, you know, doing his mini. Who's the guy that he loved? The black dude that he loved that used to play the piano?
Or Billy Preston.
No.
Stevie Wonder.
No, the original rocker. In the 50s.
Oh, Little Richard.
Little Richard, yeah, you know, he's doing his you know, a mini Little Richard sort of impersonations. Always love that. And I just love the harmony back up in the vocals.
Just running through black keyboard players in a hilariously hit and miss manner.
Well, there's just so many. There's just so many of them. There's just so many good black keyboard players.
Black keyboard players. Shooting all over the place to not hit one. Yeah. Jeez.
There's just so many of them. Brad, I love this. You know, I've got 10 out of 10 here, but effort, I'm going to give it a Brad score.
Oh.
I can almost remember the funny faces. Ow. What you said?
Gonna reconstruct it from the beginning using only two voices. I'll do the stick. Get you in time.
Little rock show happening here on the British Local Blues Rock Show.
Probably not going to get copyrighted for that. Oh
no.
Good way of getting around
the
it.
AI has to first decipher what we've just been saying. It's near impossible.
Let's hope so.
But Jet, I mean, I don't know what else to say more than what Andrew's already said. I've always loved this song. It's fantastic. Great intro. Love the tone of the guitars. Solid verse. You know, with the chugging guitars. You know, great vocal from Paul McCartney. Catchy melody throughout the song and a great chorus, as Andrew has wonderfully expressed and shown us on the show today. I love that chuggy guitar, you know, that he puts in this. It sets the feel for the song. That section at 155, the guitar sounds fantastic. It's a quirky sort of synth solo as well. I think it really suits the song. I gave it 10 out of 10. It's never a skip, guys. Rock Professor.
Yes, indeed. Well, we did this as part of I think this is what Andrew's talking about. Someone just show a picture of this. This is what my dad was an early adopter of, and sort of in late 1970, 71. He had this called a VCS3, and as you see, it has no keyboard, so it has sound producers, oscillators, and then you put it through various effects. Pink Floyd used it on Dark Side of the Moon, but look at the price of it, 25 grand.
Mm-hmm.
There you are. It's practically a retirement fund. So that's what my dad used, which is sort of similar to a Moog. It's a kind of smaller, more compact version of Moog. You could actually buy a version of that actually went into a briefcase. It was a briefcase version. My cousin Basil has a briefcase version. He played with Steve Hillage using it in the late 70s, which is fantastic. So hello, Baz, if you ever see this. But yes, I mean, it's the age of the synthesizer and things. I don't have much more to say about. It's a great song, fantastically put together again by McCartney. Great ear for instrumentation, great ear for arrangement, and interchanging guitars, pianos, cello, sax solo at the end to keep it going. It's I gave this a 9 out of 10 when we ranked it before, and 9 out of 10 it will be. But never a skip. It's a great song. And fantastic. As I say, fails my theory of the second last track being rubbish. There goes another theory. Oh, well.
10 out of 10 from Hugh, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're on the money there. You're right, Brad. You know, that chugging guitar, even Holly's made a comment there. You know, it's
what
just,
is it? Yes.
yeah. You know, it's just fantastic. It's a great song. It's a party song. And it's definitely worth its place on the album. So, folks, we get to the last track on the album, and this is the reason why they released this Greatest Hits album. This song, when it came out as a single, in 1977, needed a package. And back in the 70s, they were doing that. You know, they were releasing singles with greatest hits on greatest hits albums, you know, to help nudge that song along. And we've seen that right through, haven't we, with rock and roll history. And they did really, really well. This album went on to become a huge success in the charts. But this song in particular, Mull of Kintyre, now I'm going to speak from my own personal experience here. It was a huge song here in New Zealand in 1977. It was a song, Brad and Simon, that my nana was singing. It was a song that my dad sung. It was a song that my mum sung. It was a song that my friends at school were singing. It was a song that our music teacher divided us up and we sung at school. You know, it was just this huge song, and everybody loved singing this song. It was a huge song here. It was a number one. I think it was a number one in Australia. It was a number one in the UK. According to Mr. Wikipedia, Brad and Simon, it was the first single to go and sell over 2 million copies, you know, which is phenomenal for a song. Went on to become Song of the Year. It's in the key of A, Brad. You know, you can play it on your acoustic guitar. You can pull out Rock Professor, that 12-string you got. It sounds really good on a 12-string. And then all of a sudden, these bagpipes come in. It was just, you know, you know, Brad's used to it because AC/DC were playing with bagpipes. You know, they were doing, you know, bagpipes and rock and roll. Even though this isn't a rock and roll song, just a phenomenal song. It's a song that I hear now in my mind that takes me back completely to a period in time, Brad and Simon. You don't hear this song a lot on the radio anymore, for some strange reason. I don't know why. Look, I'm going to get myself into trouble here. I just think it's a phenomenal song. It's a Brad score for me. I just think the song's amazing. I love the low budget video where they're just walking in gumboots, you know, on his farm in Scotland, you know, and then you've got the pipers coming down the beach. It's just, yeah. It's just everything that Paul McCartney was at that period of time, Brad and Simon, just, you know, reverting back to living on the land and in contradiction to that rock and roll lifestyle that a lot of people were falling into traps. Brad score.
Wow. Mull of Kintyre. Great acoustic vibes. I love the delicate vocal, catchy melody, wonderful background vocals in the song, and a wonderful addition of bagpipes. It really sets the mood. It gets, you know, bagpipes in a song. They just set that mood straight off the bat. You know, I can think of a number of songs that came out with bagpipes. You know, You're the Voice, John Farnham, AC/DC. Yeah. So the bagpipes really set a good mood. You know, it's a wonderful song. Look, I'll be straight up honest. The first time I heard the song, it didn't connect with me. I didn't really, you know, I wanted to hear rock songs, and it's not something that it connected with me initially. But I appreciate the song a lot more these days, and something comes with a bit of maturity. You start to understand songs and the meaning behind songs, and you know, there's something a little bit more depth to this song than what I realised. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. Not a Brad score from me, unfortunately, but 7.5 out of 10. Never a skip. Simon.
No problem. That sounds good.
Off with its head. I think it's a case of overhearing some of it. You know, I understand. You know, it's a very simple 3-chord song, as you say, with bagpipes. It's an ode to the area's natural beauty of the Mull of Kintyre, which is a beautiful area of Scotland. I've been there several times.
Good,
but yeah, I'd skip it pretty much these days. I think unlike Brad, I've got less mature as I've got older. So I give it 6.5 out of 10, and I'd probably skip it. To be honest, not all the time, but it's got a good chance of me pointing the finger of doom at it and running on to the next track. that's no judgment on its it's. I think its ubiquitousness is its downfall, really. It was just all over the place, as you say. It's kind of like, sold more than 2 million copies, just behind Bohemian Rhapsody, if you're interested. Yeah, 4th in the all-time UK singles lists, which is amazing. So it was everywhere, and
it was a song that everyone was listening to. Yeah, and from my experience, it certainly was. My nana wasn't listening to popular music. Never listened, but I do remember here,
Well, and that's the true mark of the crossover hit, isn't it?
Correct.
You can get your grandmother singing it and your parents singing it.
Yep.
My grandmother or my parents never would have sung it, but it's no, it's no, and I think it just, as I say, it was just so ubiquitous at the time. But it has, it's that old thing, isn't it? The simpler the better. Just an acoustic guitar, a couple of acoustic guitars, pretty much 3 chords, and you get yourself a massive hit, don't you?
And that's basically McCartney. That's Paul McCartney. That's
all him.
Yeah.
That's the genius of Paul McCartney. He goes on in the 80s and he does it with Michael Jackson, and then he goes and does another song with Stevie Wonder, and those 2 songs go on to become #1 songs.
Yeah.
All over the world, and just churn out millions of dollars for him.
Yeah.
Holly Lewis has put me in the naughty corner. Quite right, Holly. Quite right. It's but it's this show is about the truth, isn't it? About how we view things. And, that's my view of it, really. Is again, and I'm a person who either feels it or it doesn't. If I don't feel it, then it's whether I can intellectualize it. I can intellectualize it and say, I understand the composition or whatever it is, But if I don't feel it, then it's not going to be, Yeah. So sadly, not much from me.
Yeah.
Cheers, John. Cheers, John. ZD351. Something that even a left-handed guitar player can play too, because he's a lefty. You see.
Yeah, he's a lefty.
That was a dig.
And Jim as well. Have a good day, Jim.
Thank you, folks, for hanging out with us and allowing us to have a bit of fun on this. But seriously, though, it is a tribute and it's an honour to Sir Paul McCartney. These guys are getting older, and big part of our lives, Brad and Simon. So thank you, Paul. Thank you for these great hits, great songs, and allowing us to have a bit of fun and get together and celebrate.
Yeah, 100%. It's a great album to go through, and I'm glad we finally got to do it. I mean, like you said, we don't do a lot of greatest hits on this channel, but it's a pretty important one. It's got some songs on it that are not necessarily on albums as well. So
yeah, and it's a thing that we're not going to get into a habit of doing, greatest hits, because it can be a cop out, and it's not what we like to do. We like to do deep dives, but as I said, folks, at the top of the show, we wanted to keep it a little bit more popular, and in celebration of the popularity and the populationist aspect of the whole album. Who's got the pick for next week?
Dr. Cook is in the chair.
Awesome. So, folks, you know the story. If you want to participate and be available to see what's going to go on, with that, you need to. Oh, hold on. You need to subscribe to their Instagram account, Brad Cook Music.
Yeah.
Hit the notification button here, and we'll put a show card up for that show. We look forward to that. And we're still, as we said, we're planning the Clapton shows.
Yes. I kind of forgot that it's my pick this week, guys. So I've got a couple of ideas, but I won't announce it here. And so people will have to check my Instagram story to determine which one we're going to pick for next week.
Awesome. So what else are we doing on the show?
I think I thought it was your song's pick because I did this one the other day. So that's why.
That doesn't count. That doesn't count on this show.
No.
Extras.
That's right. Yeah, you'll have to pick something. But aren't we doing something else on the show?
You guys just have a chat.
Okay.
I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Right? Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The coda is coming. Just one thing struck me about this. This is purely from my point of view that clearly I've been a bit harsh on some of the songs on this record and stuff. It did strike me that there's about a side of bona fide McCartney classics that would fit in with anything, and are right up there with any of his best work and stuff. And other stuff is a bit more take it or leave it, a bit more interesting, a bit more, but not quite in the same vein, which I thought was
problem. Happy Canada Day.
Oh yes, Happy Canada Day. Was it yesterday? Yesterday, I think it was. So all our Canadian peeps, Ben, guitar.
Hey!
Look who it isn't. Quick, get the special screen layout. Oh, that's the wrong way round, Doctor. Not that one. Not him.
And the other way.
Hold on.
Hi, Andrew and Simon.
Hello, Ellen. How are you?
And everyone in the chat. Hi, everyone.
See, it's carefully laid production plans of saving the layouts. I think can you go round us?
Hold on. Here we go.
That's more like it.
Hold on.
Oh no, it's.
How are we going? All good?
Yes, good. Thank you.
Yes, Holly.
You?
Saying, yeah. Hi, Holly. Holly wanted to see me. So. Hi, Holly. And is everything all right?
Yeah.
Hi,
how you? Is he looking after you, Ellen? Is he treating you in the manner in which you should be treated? Is he?
My son is the perfect son in the world.
I hated this area.
He is. No, he is. He's been
quite right.
Perfect growing up. Great kid. He's gone. No, he is.
Yeah. Ellen, I've got children. I've got daughters. 3. Would I say they were perfect?
Oh, well, I have to say he's perfect. He's good. He is.
I'm amazing. I'm perfect.
Yeah, he's. I mean, look at his age, and he's still good and kind to his mom. Yeah.
25.
So, are we on the show that everyone can see me in the chat?
Yeah.
Yes,
everyone can see you. Everyone can see you, Ellen. And
I love talking to all you guys in the chat. Holly, Hugh, all of you. Yes, I love it. It's great fun. And Johnny Heartbreaker. And I'd love to know what Holly's saying. She's wanted to know if I was coming on the show. She wanted to see me.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to spoil the surprise, but so good to be able to say hi to everyone because I love you all. Yes. But we're like family.
Massive supporter. Oh, that's very cool, isn't it? Yeah, that's what we hope is people feel part of community,
Absolutely.
family, well, because we
I
think that's
enjoy you
important
all. Yes.
to us.
Andrew's laugh, ha ha ha, and and Simon's laugh.
No, we appreciate the support that you give us too, Alan. Because we're always going to be saying that. If the Rock Professor and Brad and I are just hanging out doing this together and just having a couple of people being involved will always be something that we look forward to doing. But having you here contributing weekly, but not only with the supporting what we're doing here, but adding your comments and the reasons why you like this song or why that song is an 8 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10. You know your music.
Oh, thank you, Andrew. You're too kind. And naturally, my son, I mean, he's a musician, and I wanted him to be a musician from the day he was born. I love that. And I wanted him to play guitar from a little guy. So he's let out the dream I wanted for him, and he loves it. And I love this show, and I think anyone who is in the chat, it's good. We get a chance to say what we think of the track, whether you like it or not. And you can't time us out, Andrew. We can just keep typing and scoring.
You deserve it less than we do, Alan. It's one of the shocking behaviour from me this week.
And it's great when you see people on the show, like when Hugh's been on and Holly was on. It's just great when you see that person that's in the chat, and you know and you can picture who you're talking to.
Yeah,
that's
good. Jim's been on a bit.
Yes,
it's good.
Jim.
You, yes.
And now me.
Now you, yes.
And a special thank you to my husband, Tol, because he listens to all the music with me, and we talk about it. We decide this and that, and we even do our own little thing with the scoring, whether he disagrees with me or vice versa. So that's why that's true. That's why I'm Ellen Tol. It's both of us, really. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, well, that's one of the great things about, lists, isn't it? Or ranking something. We talk about this often on the show, Alan. Rolling Stone will come out with the top 10 greatest albums or the top 10 greatest rock guitarists in the last 20 years. And, the good thing with the list is that you can go and do your own. You may not agree with the list. It might be a total piece of crap, and so okay, and we'll go and do our own, and then try and tell me my list is no good.
My list is always the best.
Oh, here we go.
Of course it is.
Guys, most of the time, most of the time, we both agree with how you feel most of the time. But sometimes we don't. And it's good. The whole thing is good. The show is really a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to be in. I look forward to it.
We do too.
It's not just, I'm glad my son's doing this, because it's given me a great interest too.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, that's really nice of you to say so.
And thank you so much for letting me, come on and say hi. I love Andrew doing
I'm glad you did, and I'm sure Simon is, and we'll wind the show up, and everybody is making outstanding comments in the chat.
What are they
surprise.
saying? What are they saying?
Yeah, Jonas is saying great surprise. Brad, you have the best mum ever from Holly. Thanks. Thank you so much, Ellen. It's such a treat, and
that's lovely. Thanks, guys.
But you're right though. You're right. It's just about friends getting together and taking advantage of social media, of this great thing that we have, which is called the internet, isn't it, Simon? And we can talk about the negatives and there's a lot of negatives about it. But what we try and do here on our channel is try and keep it a little bit positive and have a bit of fun.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I got a message for John ZD 351. I used to have Luke Foley come to my place
Luke Foley.
Friend. And I know you love Luke Foley. You think he's Brad with the wig, but it's so
Luke Foley.
I can laugh out of all that, John. I really do.
Luke
So
Foley
Luke
does
exist.
He's a legend.
Luke and Brad.
He does.
Used to play together and all this sort of thing. And when they didn't go to the same school, put Brad in an all-boys school. And that didn't go down well with Brad because they were very close, like brothers. And so eventually I took Brad out of the boys' school. But Luke was only a little fella, and I watched him till he grew into an adult. And it was just lovely to see. He's a lovely young man. Yeah. Just thought you'd like to know, John.
And he doesn't know that he's a legend on this show. Does he? No idea that in a small corner of the internet he gets such a regular mentions, shaping Brad's musical tastes.
But I saw John in a photo with Brad. He went to one of your gigs, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he was cool. Yes.
Look, we love John. We love John. He's in his sense of humour. He's John is one in a million.
I love it. I love it. It's good fun. It's good fun with everyone. We all have our little personalities, and you get a good laugh.
Yeah.
Don't we? We need a laugh.
Well, thanks for having me on. I don't want to steal the show talking.
No problem. No problem. We're going to give you the last word, Alan, and then we'll go. We're not going to do a shout out. Thank you everybody for hanging out with us, but we'll give you the last word, Alan and Brad, and then we'll let you guys go and celebrate some time together.
Oh, we love it. I love it. I don't get enough with him. I could just be with him all the time. One of those mums live in his pocket. Listen, great show. Love it. I know everyone in the chat does. Otherwise, we wouldn't come every week. And thanks for having me in the chat, guys, and being such great friends with me. And thanks to Andrew and Simon for another great show.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.